The stars were calm that night. The small human research ship Aurora drifted through the silent void, its engines low, its lights soft against the darkness. The crew thought it would be another quiet run. No pirates, no strange signals.
I remember.
Trouble? They were wrong. The sound came first, faint, almost like a whisper. It wasn't picked up by the normal scanners. Instead, the old emergency comm system lit up, a tiny red light flashing on the captain's console. Captain Reed leaned forward, frowning. "That channel is dead," he muttered. "No one used it anymore. Belonged to the early days of space. Travel, a time before faster-than-light drives." He pressed the button, and the voice filled the room. It was shaky, weak, almost begging. The language was strange, old, but it was human. The words came slowly, as if spoken by someone who had not talked in a very long time. "Please, help us, anyone. We are still here." The crew stared. Voice sounded like it had traveled across centuries. Engineer Mira ran a scan. "It's real," she said quietly. "Not a recording. Live transmission." But when she traced the source, her expression changed. This is impossible." The signal came from a star system marked red on the navigation maps. Nobody went there. 300 years ago, during the war with the alien race known as the Draviks. It was the site of one of humanity's greatest defeats. Hundreds of ships had gone in. None had come back. The place was marked as a dead zone, dangerous, unstable. Cursed Lieutenant Harris leaned back, shaking his head. That war was 3 centuries ago. No human could still be alive out there. Mira's fingers moved quickly across the console. "And yet that's where the signal is coming from. Coordinates are exact, no distortion." Sat in silence for a moment. The old stories came back to him, stories of the HMS Vengeance, the most feared warship of its time, disappearing without a trace in that same system. Some said the Draviks had destroyed it. Others said it had been pulled into some kind of trap beyond normal space. All agreed on one thing: nothing ever returned. He stood, set a course for the coordinates. The crew exchanged glances. "Captain," with respect, Harris began, but Reed's voice was sharp. "Up. If there's even one human out there, we have to try." The ship turned toward the forbidden system. As the stars shifted outside the viewing windows, the air on the bridge seemed to grow colder. The AI navigation system spoke in a flat tone. "Warning. The destination is within restricted territory. Probability of survival, 13%. Didn't blink. Proceed." For hours, the Aurora cut through the emptiness, faster-than-light drives humming. The crew tried to keep busy, but the strange signal kept playing in the background, the same weak voice repeating its message every 3 minutes, as if afraid to stop. Sometimes the words would change slightly, like the speaker was losing their mind. "Help us. Anyone. The dark. They are still here." Finally, they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The view outside was wrong. The stars here looked older, dimmer. Space itself felt heavier, and there it was, a massive shadow in the darkness. At first they thought it was an asteroid, but then lights flickered faintly along its surface. It was a ship. Mira's breath caught. That's the HMS Vengeance. The hull was scarred, blackened from battle. Tire sections were torn open, yet it still floated, silent. The nameplate on the side was barely visible under layers of dust and ice. No beacons, no engines, no heat signatures. But the distress call was still coming from inside. They approached slowly. The closer they came, the more details they saw. Strange burns along the metal, marks that didn't match any known weapon. Windows were shattered. Some corridors were open to space. It was like the ship had been abandoned in the middle of a war, and then forgotten. They docked. The airlock connected with a hollow clang. Inside, the Vengeance was dark. Their helmet lights cut through the dust, revealing narrow halls, silent rooms, and drifting debris. Everything was frozen in place, untouched for centuries. In the mess hall, trays of food still sat on tables, half-eaten, like the crew had left in a hurry. No bodies, no blood, just absence, Harris whispered. This isn't right. If they abandoned ship, there should be signs. Damage. Escape pods missing. Something. But there was nothing. Only silence. They reached the bridge. Every console was dead, except one. As soon as they stepped inside, a single screen lit up with a sharp white glow. It showed no data, no maps. Only a single sentence. You should not have come. The crew froze, before anyone could speak. The lights across the bridge flickered. Someone, was watching. From the corner of her eye, Mira thought she saw a figure in the shadows. But when she turned, there was nothing there. Captain Reed's voice was calm but tight. Stay together. No one wanders off. They moved deeper into the ship, following the source of the signal. Every corridor seemed to stretch longer than it should, like the ship was changing around them. The further they went, the more the air felt heavy, thick, almost like they were walking underwater. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, distress signal stopped. The silence was worse than the sound.
Yes.
They all stood there, listening. Then they heard it faint, distant. Footsteps, slow, steady, coming from behind them. Reed turned sharply. Who's there? His voice echoed down the corridor. No answer? The footsteps stopped. Myra's suit sensors picked up nothing. No life signs. No movement. But the sound had been real, too real. The captain spoke into his com. Back to the Aurora. Now. They turned to leave, but the path they had come through looked different. The walls seemed older, the floor covered in frost. Lights above flickered weakly and a low hum filled the air, like the ship itself was breathing. Somewhere deep inside the Vengeance, something was awake, and it knew they were here. The air inside the HMS Vengeance felt wrong. It wasn't just cold, it was heavy, like it had weight. Every sound seemed louder than it should be. The click of boots on the metal floor, the hiss of their suit filters, the soft creak of old steel shifting in the dark. Captain Reed led the way, his flashlight cutting a thin beam through the dust. The rest of the crew followed in silence. No one wanted to speak. Something about this place made them feel like they were intruders. They reached a junction where the corridor split in 3 directions. The map on their wrist screens was useless. It showed only static. Harris glanced at the captain. Which way? Before Reed could answer, a low sound echoed from the left corridor. It wasn't the footsteps they had heard before. This was slower, drawn out, like metal dragging on metal. Myra shivered. That's not wind. Reed motioned left. We go toward it. They moved carefully, passing more frozen rooms. Walls were covered with strange marks, long, deep grooves that looked like something had clawed through the steel. In one room, chairs were knocked over, papers scattered, as if a fight had broken out. But still, there were no bodies. After a long walk, they reached a sealed door. A faint light glowed under it. Reed tapped the control panel, but it was dead. Harris pried it open with a crowbar. The metal groaning loudly in the silence. Inside was a large chamber, lined with inactive consoles. In the center stood a single terminal, and it was on. The screen flickered, lines of old human code scrolling quickly. Then words appeared. Identify. Reed hesitated, then typed, Captain Reed, us, Aurora. The screen paused. Then a new message appeared. You are not Dravix. You are human. Amira stepped closer. Who are you? She asked. The words appeared slowly, almost like the writer was thinking, I am the Vengeance. The crew exchanged looks. Ships didn't talk like that. Even. Old war A's referred to themselves as systems, not people. Reed kept his voice calm. Why did you call for help? The reply came faster this time. We did not. You heard an echo. Harris frowned. An echo of what? Of the last voices here. The lights in the room dimmed, then flickered. The sound of the dragging metal came again, closer now. Reed tried another question. Where's your crew? The AI paused. Then they made the mistake of following the Dravix. They are lost to time. Before anyone could speak, the entire ship shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Their suit comes crackled with static. Myra's scanner lit up. Multiple energy bursts outside the hull, but there's nothing on the visual sensors. Reed's voice sharpened. They found us. Back to the Aurora. They ran through the corridors, but the Vengeance was changing. Doors they had passed before were now sealed. New corridors stretched where none had been. The ship seemed to be twisting, shifting, guiding them somewhere else. Harris cursed. "It's locking us in." They reached the mess hall again. This time it wasn't empty. A single chair had been pulled out from the table. Something sat in it. At first they thought it was a man, human-shaped, wearing an old UHS Navy uniform. But its head turned toward them, and the light from Reed's torch revealed a face that was wrong. The skin was pale and stretched thin, the eyes black and glossy like glass. The mouth moved, but the voice that came out was mechanical, like broken. Speakers, "Too late, too late," it repeated over and over. Reed raised his weapon. "Stay back." The figure didn't move toward them, but its voice grew louder, faster. "Too late, too late, too late, too late." Suddenly the lights went out. Complete darkness. They heard movement, not just from the chair, but from all around them. Footsteps. Clawing on the walls. The sound of metal groaning. Then the Aurora's channel burst to life. "Captain, we're under fire. Can't see them." Reed's heart pounded. "Hold position. We're on our way." They sprinted through the corridors, guided only by the faint emergency lights. Something followed them, not running, but always close, always just behind. Finally, they reached the airlock. The Aurora was still attached, but scorch marks covered. Its hull fresh and smoking. The crew scrambled inside. As the airlock sealed, Red glanced back at the Vengeance. For just a second, he saw something in the shattered windows of its bridge. A shape, tall and thin, standing perfectly still. Watching them leave, the moment they undocked, invisible weapons struck again. The Aurora shook violently, alarmed, screaming. Mira shouted from engineering, "Shields down to 40%. Reed's eyes locked on the controls. "Return fire." But every shot they fired hit nothing. The attackers were invisible, hidden, in the black. Then, without any input from him, the Aurora's targeting systems lit up. Red markers filled the screen. The Vengeance was sending them firing coordinates, every shot perfectly calculated. The captain didn't question it. Fire on all marks. The ship's cannons roared, and for the first time, the attackers appeared sleek, black Dravix. Ships phasing in and out of visibility. They moved like shadows, their hulls pulsing with strange blue light. Several exploded under the sudden counterattack. The rest vanished into the darkness. The channel flickered again. This time, it wasn't his crew on the other end. It was the same weak voice from the distress call. "You came. Shouldn't have come." Signal cut out. The Aurora floated in the dark, its crew shaken, its shields barely holding. The Vengeance was silent once more, drifting in the cold, but Red knew one thing. Whatever had happened here, it wasn't over. And the Vengeance had no intention of letting them leave without answers. The crew barely had time to breathe after the last exchange. The Aurora floated just a few hundred meters from the Vengeance, both ships quiet now, like nothing had happened. The stars outside were still and cold, but Captain Reed felt it. Something was out there, circling, watching. Mira was at her console, eyes scanning the data feed. No ships on sensors, no movement. She hesitated. It's like they were never here. Reed didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the Vengeance, its dark hull a shadow against the dim starlight. That warship had survived something no other human vessel ever had. Now it was helping them, but why? The thought was cut short when every alarm on the Aurora screamed at once. The ship lurched hard to the side, sending crew members slamming into walls. Harris gripped his chair. What the hell was that? Impact on the port side. Mira shouted. No visual contact. Another hit came, this one shaking the whole vessel. The lights flickered. Reed turned to the tactical display. Still no ships. Space around them was empty. Shields down to 60%. Called Chief Engineer Vega from below decks. Reed clenched his jaw. Evasive maneuvers. Fire blind in a full spread. The Aurora spun and fired its cannons in every direction. The blasts lit up the dark, but hit nothing. The invisible attackers moved like ghosts. Then, a voice came over the comm, cold, mechanical. "Stop wasting your fire." It was the Vengeance. Reed glared at the comm panel. "What are we dealing with?" The voice replied. "Dravik spectral hulls. You cannot see them with your eyes. You cannot hear them with your ears. You can only know them when they are killing you." Another impact rattled the ship. The shields dropped again. Mira cursed under her breath. "Then how do we hit them?" Reed demanded. The AI's answer was chilling. "You don't. You run." The Aurora's navigation system lit up with a new course, sent directly from the Vengeance. Reed stared at it. "Those coordinates lead deeper into the system." "Go," the AI ordered. "If you stay here, they will take you apart piece by piece." Reed hesitated, then gave the command. The Aurora's engines roared, pushing the ship forward. The attacks followed, sharp. Violent hits against their hull. But as they entered the shadow of a large dead moon, the impacts stopped. Mira checked the sensors. "They're gone." "Not gone," the Vengeance's voice said over the comm. "Waiting." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Why are they after us?" "You are human," the AI replied simply. "They have not forgotten." Before anyone could ask more, the Vengeance sent a data burst, encrypted logs from centuries ago. Mira pulled them up on the screen. The logs showed a battle, hundreds of human ships clashing with sleek Dravik's warcraft. The Vengeance was at the center, firing in all directions. Then, without warning, the enemy ships vanished from every sensor. A few seconds later, human vessels began exploding one after another, as if attacked by an invisible force in the middle of the chaos. The captain of the Vengeance shouted a single order: "Initiate Rift Protocol." The recording cut off. Myra looked confused. "What's the Rift Protocol?" the AI answered. "A last resort? A way to fight them where they cannot hide? A way to step outside of time?" Reed's brow furrowed. "And what happened?" The voice paused. "We won, and we lost." Before Reed could press further, Vega's voice came from engineering, urgent and tight. "Captain, you need to see this. Now." Reed hurried down to engineering with Harris and Mira close behind. Vega pointed. "To the reactor display. We're losing fuel mass, but there's no leak. It's like it's being drained into nothing." Mira frowned. "That's impossible," unless her words were cut off by a deep, low hum that filled the ship. The lights dimmed to a faint glow. The Vengeance spoke again, this time more urgent. "They're phasing you. Soon you will not be here." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. "Explain." "You are crossing into the rift," the AI said. "It is where they take enemies. It is where you will stay forever, unless you learn the rules." The crew looked at one another. Harris swallowed hard. "What rules?" The voice didn't answer right away. Then slowly, "Rule 1, do not trust the stars. Rule 2, do not count the days. Rule 3, do not follow the voices." Vega looked. "Pale voices?" "You will hear them soon," the AI said. Suddenly, every console on the Aurora lit up with the same incoming signal. A weak human voice. "Please, help us. Anyone. You're still here." It was the same voice they had first heard, only this time it was coming from inside their own ship. The crew froze. Mira checked the internal sensors. The source is Cargo Bay 3. Reed grabbed his sidearm. "Let's go." They moved quickly through the halls, the voice growing louder as they approached. The door to Cargo Bay 3 slid open, and they stepped inside. The room was empty. The voice still called out, "Please, help us." Mira turned slowly. "Captain, it's coming from everywhere." The hum of the ship deepened. The air seemed heavier again, and then, from the shadows at the far end of the bay, a figure stepped forward. It was a human, or it looked like one. It's an old Navy uniform hung from its thin frame. Its face was hidden in shadow, but the voice was exactly the one. From the distress call, it lifted its head slowly. Shouldn't have come. The lights flickered, and the figure was gone. The Aurora's crew stood frozen in the empty cargo bay. The figure was gone, but its voice still echoed in their heads. The lights flickered once more, then steadied. Reed gave the order to seal the bay and return to the bridge. No one spoke. On the way back, the ship felt different. The corridors seemed longer, the hum of the engines slower, as if time itself had changed pace. When they reached the bridge, Mira was already at her console. "Captain, I'm getting a reading from deep inside the Vengeance," she said. "It's faint, but it's human. Very faint." Harris leaned over her shoulder. "You mean life signs?" "Yes, just one." Reed didn't hesitate. "Suit up. We're going back." They crossed the docking bridge into the Vengeance once more. The AI's voice came over their coms as they stepped inside. "You are going to engineering. That is where he sleeps." Reed asked. The AI didn't answer. They followed the faint life sign signal through cold, dust-filled corridors. The deeper they went, the stranger the ship felt. Some halls had frost on the walls. Others were so warm their visors fogged. Doors opened before they touched them, then closed behind them without a sound. Finally, they reached a massive door at the base of engineering. The scanner panel next to it was cracked and dead, but as Reed approached, the door opened slowly, like it had been waiting for him. Inside, the engineering deck was silent. Machines sat still, their once bright panels dark. At the far end of the room, hidden between stacks of frozen crates, stood a single cryopod. Its glass was frosted over. But the faint glow of life support lights showed it was still active. Mira wiped the frost from the glass and gasped. Inside was a man in an old UHS Navy uniform, his face pale but peaceful. His rank insignia was worn but still readable. "Commander." Reed checked the cryo controls. "He's been in here for over 300 years. Can we wake him?" Harris asked. Mira hesitated. "Yes. But I don't know what he'll be like after this long." Reed's voice was steady.
"Do it."
The pod hissed as it warmed, the frost melting away. Slowly, the man inside stirred, his eyes moving beneath closed lids. Then, with a sharp gasp, he opened them. For a moment, he stared in confusion at the strangers around him. Then he tried to sit up, coughing hard. Reed helped him out of the pod. "Easy," Reed said. "You're safe now." "You're on the Aurora." The man's eyes locked on Reed, sharp and alert despite his long sleep. "The war," he said hoarsely. "Is it over?" Reed exchanged a quick glance with his crew. "It ended centuries ago." Commander's expression darkened. "No, not here. Not in the rift." Mira stepped forward. "The rift? You mean the thing the Vengeance's AI mentioned?" The man's jaw tightened. "If you're here, you've already crossed into it. You just don't know it yet." Led him back to the Aurora, but Reed noticed he kept glancing over his shoulder as if expecting something to follow. Once aboard, they gave him water and a blanket. "My name is Commander Holt," he began. "I served on the Vengeance during the Dravix War. We were sent here as part of a trap. They wanted our ship, our crew, our technology. We fought them, but they didn't fight like any enemy before." Holt's voice dropped lower. "They pulled us into the rift. It's not a place you can chart. It's outside. Time doesn't move here the way it does in normal space. You can be here for days, but centuries pass outside or the other way around. We tried to escape, but every path led back to the same place. It's always the same stars. It's always the same battles." Harris frowned. "But you're alive, how?" Holt looked away. "I volunteered for cryo when it became clear the others weren't, staying themselves." Mira leaned in. "What happened to them?" He didn't answer right away. Then slowly, "They changed. The Dravix don't just trap you here. They rewrite you. They take pieces of you away. First, your memories. Then, your sense of time. Finally, you." Reed studied him. "And the voice we heard? The distress call? Holt shook his head. That wasn't me. That wasn't anyone alive. Before anyone could respond, the ship shook violently. Lights dimmed. Mira ran to her console, multiple energy spikes coming from the rift itself. Holt stood, his voice sharp. Don't answer them. Don't follow them. That's how they pull you deeper. Reed turned to him. If we're already in this, how do we get out? Holt's eyes were grim. Not without a price. The Vengeance's AI came over the come, interrupting. They have seen you with him. They will not allow you to leave now. The hum of the rift deepened, vibrating through the Aurora's hull. Outside the windows, the stars began to shift, slowly at first, then faster. As if the whole sky was turning, Holt grabbed the edge of the console to steady himself. It's starting. You'll see now. Through the viewing glass, the crew watched. As shapes emerged from the dark hundreds of Dravik ships, their black hulls pulsing with cold blue light. They surrounded the Aurora and the Vengeance, not moving, not firing, just waiting. Reed's voice was calm, but inside, his heart pounded. What are they waiting for? Holt's answer was barely a whisper. For the rift to close behind you. The Dravik ships stayed in perfect formation around the Aurora and the Vengeance, silent and unmoving. Their black hulls seemed to drink in the starlight, and the blue lights along their sides pulsed slowly, like the rhythm of some strange heartbeat. Inside, the Aurora, the crew watched in tense silence. No one dared speak loudly, as if the ships outside might hear. Holt stood near the viewing glass. His hands clenched behind his back. They're not here to fight, he said quietly. Not yet. Reed studied him. Then what are they doing? Deading. The rift settle, Holt replied. They don't want you escaping by accident. Mira frowned at her console. I'm trying to send a distress call. Nothing's going through. The signal just dies. It won't, Holt said. No message leaves the rift. You could scream loud enough to shake planets and it would. Never be heard outside. The AI from the Vengeance spoke through the cum, its voice sharp now. Your clocks will not match. Your memories will not match. That is how you will know you are inside. Reed looked around the bridge. The clock on the wall showed 2,300 hours. His wrist display showed 0950. The difference made his stomach twist. Suddenly, Mira's console beeped. Captain, we've got movement, but not from the Dravik ships. It's coming from below us. Shape emerged from the shadow of the dead moon they were orbiting. At first, it looked like another ship, but as it drifted closer, the crew realized it wasn't. It was a piece of wreckage, enormous, broken, and ancient. Harris stared. That's human. The hull plating was marked with the faded emblem. Of the old United Human Navy, the ship looked like it had been destroyed in battle long ago, yet its lights flickered weakly. Holt's eyes narrowed. I know that ship. We saw it lost in the first year of the war. It shouldn't be here. The wreck drifted past them slowly, like a dead whale in a dark ocean. As it turned, they saw movement through one of the shattered windows. Shadows. Walking in slow, unnatural steps, Mira's voice was low. They're inside. Holt shook his head. No, that ship's crew died centuries ago. Those aren't people. Before anyone could reply, the Aurora shook. Not from weapons fire, but from something far stranger. Reed looked out the viewing glass. The stars were moving. At first it seemed like the ship was turning, but the navigation systems showed they were stationary. The stars themselves were sliding across the sky, shifting places as if someone had taken the whole universe and spun it around. Mira whispered, "What's happening?" "The rift is folding," Holt said grimly. "It's how they control space. Every fold makes it harder to find your way out. Keep moving long enough, and you forget where you started." The Vengeance's AI interrupted. "I can guide you, but you must do exactly as I say. No deviations." Reed's voice was firm. "Understood." "First rule," the AI said. "Do not follow the stars. They lie." The Aurora's engines roared. To life, following a course fed directly from the Vengeance. The Dravik ships made no move to stop them. They simply drifted aside, letting them pass. "Why aren't they attacking?" Harris asked. "They don't need to," Holt said. Once you're deep enough, the rift will do it for them. The journey was disorienting. The stars outside shifted constantly, changing color, changing brightness, even vanishing entirely. At times, some constellations repeated, appearing again and again, as if they were flying in circles. Then came the voices at first. It was just a faint murmur over the coms, like background static. Then, slowly, words began to form. Captain. Reed. Help us. Turn back. Reed froze. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. It was his own. The bridge fell silent. The voice repeated exactly the same way, over and over. Mira swallowed. That's possible. Holt's voice was sharp. Don't answer it. Don't even acknowledge it. That's how they catch you. AI confirmed. Third rule. Do not follow the voices. But the voice changed again. This time, it was Mira's mother, calling her name softly. Harris heard his brother dead for 10 years. Vega heard her daughter laughing. They kept flying, trying to ignore it. But the voices grew louder, clearer. It's almost like they were standing in the room. Mira slammed her hands over her ears. Make it stop. It won't stop, Holt said. Grimly, not until the rift decides you're ready to be taken. Suddenly, the aurora burst into open space again. The shifting stars were gone. Before them was a massive, shimmering wall of light stretching across the void. Reed stared. What is that? The edge of the fold, Holt said. If we break through it, we'll be deeper inside. Past that point, no one ever comes back. AI's voice was colder than ever. Then you must turn now. But before Reed could give the order, the Dravik ships reappeared, forming a blockade around the only safe path back. Their weapons glowed. Harris gripped the controls. If we turn, we have to fight our way through them. Reed's eyes locked on the shimmering wall. Stay and fight, or plunge deeper into the rift. Both felt like suicide. The Dravik ships inched closer. The wall of light pulsed like it was breathing. Holt spoke quietly, almost to himself. You cross. You belong to it. The bridge was silent, all eyes on red. He made his choice. Engines too full. We're going through. The aurora shot forward. The Dravik ships didn't follow. They simply watched. The wall of light swallowed them whole. For a moment, everything was white. Then, darkness and the stars on the other side were unlike any they had ever seen. The aurora drifted in silence after crossing the wall of light. The stars here were huge and strange, glowing in deep reds and cold blues. Some pulsed like hearts. Others looked like they were slowly falling apart. There was no sign of the Draviks. Ships. For a moment, the crew thought they were safe, and the radar came alive. Contacts, Mira shouted. No, dozens closing fast. Through the viewing glass shapes appeared. Warships. Hundreds of them. Some were human, some Draviks, and some belonged to alien species no one on board could name. They were all damaged, scarred, and firing weapons at one another. A human cruiser roared past, its hull glowing with fresh weapon burns. Fired a massive broadside at a Dravik's destroyer, shattering its engines. Before the destroyer could explode, another alien vessel slammed into it, tearing it apart. The space around the aurora was chaos. Missiles, laser fire, and debris flying in every direction. Harris pulled the ship into a tight spin to avoid. A drifting hulk. What the hell is going on out here? Holt's face was grim. You're seeing the truth. These are all the ones who crossed the rift and never got out. Reed's eyes widened. They've been fighting for centuries. Don't know how long it's been, Holt said. Time is broken here. A minute for you could be a decade for them, or the other way around. The coms lit up with hundreds of voices, all shouting orders, warnings, or desperate cries for help. Most of them overlapped, impossible to follow. Then a calm human voice cut through it all. Aurora, turn back now. Reed's head snapped, toward the speaker. The voice was his own. Myra looked terrified. It's happening again. Before anyone could respond, a massive Dravik's battleship appeared from the chaos. heading straight for them. Its guns locked onto the Aurora. Harris swore under his breath. Can't take a hit from that thing. Not if we move fast, Holt said. Follow me. He transmitted coordinates, and the Aurora swerved through the madness. They passed. Wreck after wreck, some still burning, others coated in centuries of space dust. They shot past a human frigate that looked ancient, its crew still at their posts. Their bodies unmoving, frozen in place. Mira whispered, "How are they still?" "Here." "They're not alive," Holt said. "They're echoes."
The rift keeps them like it keeps everything.
Then came something no one expected. A Dravix. Ship broke formation and began firing on its own allies to clear a path for the Aurora. "What the hell?" Harris began. Holt's voice was sharp. "Don't stop. Don't question it." The Dravix vessel moved beside them, its captain appearing on the come. The alien's voice was deep and guttural. "Human ship. You are trapped. Same as us. The rift wants us to fight forever. We will help you break it." He didn't know whether to believe him. "Why?" "Because," the Dravix captain said, "we have been here for 1,000 of your years. And in that time, we have learned. One thing, the rift feeds on war. If there is no war, it dies." The Aurora and the Dravix ship moved together, weaving through the battle. Explosions lit the void like constant lightning. Then, in the distance, Adid saw something impossible to Auroras. One was theirs. The other was identical in every detail, right down to the scorch marks on the hull, and it was flying straight toward them. Myra's voice cracked. "That's us. That's us." The other Aurora opened fire. "Move," Reed shouted. Harris yanked the controls, and their Aurora rolled to the side. The duplicate ship's lasers cut across their shields, shaking the entire vessel. Holt's face was pale. "The rift is making copies. If it kills you here, you take their place in the endless fight." The copy goes on, thinking it's the real one. The Dravix ship fired a massive plasma burst, hitting the duplicate Aurora and forcing it off course. "Reed's." The voice was tight. "We need a way out now." "There's only one," the Dravix captain said. "The rift's heart. But it is not a place. It is a decision." Holt nodded slowly. "He's right. You have to refuse to play its game." Myra looked confused. "How do you refuse when it's all around you?" Before Holt could answer, the duplicate Aurora reappeared, flanking them. Other ships joined. The chase, human, Dravix, alien, all firing as they came. The Dravix captain growled overcomes. "We cannot outrun them. You must decide now." Reed looked at the chaos, at the endless war raging all around. If they kept fighting, they'd be trapped here forever. "Cut the weapons," Reed ordered. The crew stared at him. "What?" Harris demanded. "You heard me. Power down the weapons. Shields too." "Captain, they'll tear us apart," Mira began. "Do it." One by one, the systems went dark. The Aurora drifted powerless in the middle of the battlefield. The pursuing ships closed in, but didn't fire. Instead, they slowed, circling like predators unsure of their prey. The duplicate Aurora stopped as well, floating silently. Then slowly, the chaos began to fade. Ships vanished, debris dissolved, and the strange stars dimmed. The Dravix ship beside them flickered like a mirage, and was gone. Only Holt remained, standing calmly on the bridge. "You've made your choice," he said quietly. "Now the rift will decide if it lets you go." The stars went black. The Aurora floated in darkness. No stars, no light, no sound. Even the hum of the engines was gone. Felt like the ship had been swallowed whole. No one spoke for a long time. The air felt heavy, like something unseen was pressing on their chests. "Are we dead?" Myra's voice was barely a whisper. "No," Reed said. "We're somewhere else." Holt stepped forward, his face unreadable. "This is the rift's heart. You've made your choice not to fight. Now it will test you." A sudden light flared outside the viewing glass. Shapes formed in the black, at first distant, then close enough to make the crew recoil. They were people Reed recognized. Faces. Old shipmates from past missions, neighbors from Earth, Even strangers in military uniforms from wars long before his time. Their eyes glowed white. They're not real, Holt said. They're memories. The rift will use them against you. The first figure stepped through the glass as if it were water and stood on the bridge. A young man in a torn pilot's jacket, bleeding from the side. Captain Reed, the man said. You left me to die. Will you do it again? Reed froze. You're not. The man's voice grew louder. Answer, da. Before Reed could speak, another figure appeared. A woman in a Dravix uniform, holding a plasma blade. She looked at Mira. You killed my sister. How will you answer for that? Mira's hands shook. I didn't. More figures poured in, surrounding them. Humans, Dravix, other aliens, all accusing, shouting, demanding. The noise grew into a deafening roar, Reed shouted to his crew. Don't listen, they're lies. But the faces got closer, their voices sharper. Cowards, murderers, you belong here. The deck beneath them rippled like liquid. One wrong step, and Reed felt his foot sink into it. Cold darkness clung to his boot, pulling him down. Harris tried to grab him, but a hand shot from the floor. Gripping Harris's arm, more hands reached for them all. Don't fight them physically, Holt yelled. If you resist in anger, you fail. The rift will keep you. Then what do we do? Mira cried. Stand your ground. Face them. Admit the truth of who you are, not what it says you are. Reed's chest tightened as the accusing faces pressed in. I am Captain Reed, he said slowly, and I have made mistakes. But I do not belong to you, the faces hissed. The hands loosened. One by one, the crew followed. Mira raised her chin. I am Mira. I have done what I had to in war. I will not carry your chains. Harris gritted his teeth. I'm Harris. Fought. I've killed. But I am more than this place. The light around them shifted. Figures glow dimmed, their shapes becoming blurry. The hands sank back into the deck, then silence again. Holt looked at Reed. You're close, but the rift always saves its last trial for the end. Black outside the ship tore open like someone ripping fabric. Through the tear came the Aurora, not the duplicate from before. This one was different. Its hull was bright, almost silver. No burns, no damage. On its bridge stood the Auroras. CrewPerfect.com, almost smiling. They look like us, Mira said softly. They are you, Holt said. The rift offers you an escape. If you step onto that ship, you'll live a peaceful life, free of war, free of fear. But you'll forget everything. Everyone you've lost. Everything you've fought for. The silver Aurora drifted closer. The other Reed stepped forward, his voice smooth and warm. Come with us. Haven't you done enough fighting? Don't you deserve rest? The crew exchanged glances. Mira's eyes were wet. It's tempting. It always is, Holt said. But if you take it, you never truly leave.
No.
You just become another piece of the rift's dream.
Oh.
The silver Aurora opened its airlock. A soft, warm light spilled. Out. It looked like home. Reed's jaw tightened. No, the other Reed tilted his head. No, we've seen what this place does. We'll find our own way out. The silver Aurora's smile faltered. The warm light flickered. Then the ship dissolved into smoke, vanishing into the black. The rift shuddered around them. The darkness cracked. Holt's voice was low. You've passed. The black void shattered completely, replaced by stars. Normal, steady stars. The Aurora's systems roared back to life. Mira gasped. We're back. Unsure? I don't know. 'Cause in the distance where Earth should have been, there was nothing but empty space. The Aurora drifted quietly, its crew staring out into the starfield. Earth was gone. Not destroyed, simply not there. Where the blue planet should have hung in space, there was only darkness and distant stars. No moon, no familiar constellations. This isn't possible, Mira whispered. Harris checked the nav charts, his hand shaking. Coordinates are exact. This is where Earth should be, but it's not. Reed finished. Silence filled the bridge. The hum of the engine sounded louder than usual, like the ship was holding its breath. Holt stepped forward, his face grim. The rift didn't bring you back to your time, or maybe not to your universe. This is a different thread. Different thread? Mira asked. A different version of reality, Holt said. One where Earth never formed, or was never found. Reed's jaw tightened. Then where is our Earth? Holt shook his head. Lost to time, unless you can. Find the thread again. Before anyone could reply, the comms console crackled to life. A voice came through, human, but strange. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself. You are entering restricted Terran defense zone. Mira's eyes widened. Terran Reed leaned forward and answered. This is the Aurora, Terran ship, registry. Alpha 79, we're returning home. There was a pause on the line, then the voice replied, cautious. Your registry doesn't match any known records. State your origin, Reed hesitated. Earth, Sol System. The voice was silent for a moment longer. Then, stand by for boarding. A massive shape emerged from the darkness. It wasn't like any human ship Reed had ever seen. Sharp. Angular, heavily armored. It dwarfed the Aurora. That's human, Harris asked in disbelief. It's from humans, Holt said, watching it closely. But maybe not the humans, you know. The larger ship extended docking arms. Magnetic clamps latched onto the Aurora. Moments later, the airlock hissed open. 5 figures stepped aboard. They wore armor that shimmered like liquid metal, their helmets hiding their faces. The leader removed theirs, revealing a human face, but with subtle differences. The eyes were a brighter shade, the skin slightly paler, the movements almost too perfect. I am Commander Vale, the leader said. You claim to be Terran, but your ship is outdated by centuries. Reed's breath caught. Centuries? Vale nodded. We measure your vessel's design at roughly 600 years old. No such ships exist in our archives. And your claim of an Earth. Vale shook their head. There is no such record. The Terran origin world is Aurelia, Mira's. Voice cracked. Then we're not from here. Vale studied them for a long moment. Wherever you're from, you carry human DNA. That alone is rare enough for us to investigate. You will come with us. Reed stepped forward. We're not prisoners. Vale's expression didn't change. No, but you are. Guests. And perhaps answers. The Aurora was guided through the massive warship's hangar. Outside the viewing glass, Reed saw dozens of ships, all human-made, but strange, unfamiliar. He also saw something else. Alien ships. Hundreds of them.
But they
were not enemies. They moved alongside the humans like allies. Mira whispered, This isn't our war anymore. Blah. As they docked, Vale looked back at them. Our history tells of a time when humanity disappeared from the stars for generations. Then, suddenly, they returned, different, stronger, unyielding. They called themselves the Children of Earth. They shook the galaxy. Holt's eyes narrowed, and you think, we're them. Vale's gaze was sharp. Perhaps. If you are, then you've come back to a galaxy that has forgotten Earth, but not the legend it left behind. Reed said nothing. His mind raced. If this was true, then somewhere in this altered galaxy was a seed of the same fire that had carried humanity through wars, rifts, darkness. And maybe, just maybe, they could light it again. As they were led deeper into the ship, Reed looked at his crew. We may never find our Earth again, but we are still human. And humans adapt. Mira nodded. We survive. Harris smirked faintly. We fight back when we have to. Holt's voice was low. Careful. This galaxy might not be ready for you. Reed allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Then it's time we reminded it what humans can do. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Somewhere in that vastness, old enemies might still lurk. Somewhere answers waited, but here and now. In a galaxy that had forgotten Earth, humanity's fire was about to burn again, and when it did, the stars would shake.